Hey, what's up guys? This video legitimately has the potential to save you $10,000, maybe $15,000. So watch this video, it won't be longer than 10 or 15 minutes, but I wanted to take a second and film this video as I have been bamboozled. So as you guys know, I primarily sell Ford Excursions, a lot of 6.0s, a lot of 7.3s, and some V10s. Now, I'm going to film a few videos here in the next few weeks or so regarding my favorite engine choice, you know, my thought of the 6.0, things like that. That's not what this video is necessarily. This video is going to be, you're looking for a 6-liter Powerstroke diesel, and there's one thing that I'm always looking for, and whenever I show you this, it very well could save you $10,000 or $15,000, this one thing. So I'm gonna show it to you here in just a minute. Like I said, this is through experience. We've bought and sold about 100 Excursions over the past 2 years, with probably 50 of them being 6.0. So I've got a lot of experience with it. And I'm just gonna tell you something that I primarily look for specifically if I'm buying one sight unseen. So might come as a shock to you guys, a lot of our Excursions actually come from all around the country at this point, and I've got to take little cues and little things that I can see in a video and in a picture to make the best decision that I can if I can't go put my hands on it. Now, sometimes, of course, if they're within about 5 hours, if they're in Texas, I will drive and I'll go see them. But other times I'm having to make a decision with as much data as I can gather through pictures and videos, etc. And some of you might be making the same decision. So again, I think if you watch this video, the one thing I'm going to tell you here in about 5 minutes, it'll probably save you 10 to 15 grand. But I did want to just show you this because it's kind of cool. We've got a couple of buildings, and this is one of them. We've got some highway frontage. I'm standing on top of kind of like a barn-dominium style thing. It's really cool. So right directly below me is like the main office, and there's a bathroom and a couple of other offices, a kitchenette, and another office over here, which is pretty cool. And inside I can store, up front here, I can store 4 vehicles. And you can see right now, this is our 2004 6-liter Powerstroke diesel. We're asking 45 grand for this guy, and I know that comes as a shock to some people, but to others you're like, no, it's a good price. And believe it or not, that one is pending, should be sold, just waiting for the money. That's our 2010 Ford Raptor. That is a 2001 limited 7.3 liter. And then here is our very cool overlanding build. So kind of a cool vantage point from up here. But all right, I don't want this video to be longer than 10 minutes long, so I'm going to get down there and show you. So whenever you're looking at a whenever you're looking at a 6-liter Powerstroke diesel, the biggest concern that you have is the heads, right? That's the thing you always hear about, that have cracked heads. Is it building excessive pressure? You know, things like that, because that can cost 10 or 15 grand to fix. And there's a telltale sign. There's a few little things that you can look for, but there's one specific thing that I'm always looking at when I'm looking at like walk around videos that people post on Facebook, or I'm looking at their pictures. Always ask for a picture of the motor, okay? Now, what I'm about to show you, this Excursion has been detailed. So I think it's called the Gross, whatever the reservoir tank is called, is going to be super clean. So just keep that in mind. But most trucks that you're buying, if it's not at a dealer, the engine bay is not going to be clean. It's going to be dirty. It's going to have dust, and it's going to have things, just residual stuff on there. But what it shouldn't have is it shouldn't have white around it. Specifically, and let me just show you what I'm talking about now. So this is the reservoir that I am referring to. What you shouldn't see anywhere on this outside of like dust is you shouldn't see white. And I don't have a picture or even another vehicle to show you right now, but you shouldn't see white around this, because when the coolant dries, when it pushes up, so if it's got a head issue, it causes excessive pressure, which after you drive it for a little while, it'll push coolant up through this cap and it will run down right here. So what it will do is it will leave behind a trail of white. You'll see white around the base of the container here, but you'll just see a trail of white. You might even see white just kind of all around the cap, and you could also see up on the hood, if it's really pushing coolant, it'll have remnants of white on the hood. So what you want to see, and again, this one's been cleaned, so it's really not a fair comparison. This is what it should look like, is you want to see one like this that doesn't have any white anywhere. And that will show you that, hey, this has not or does not have a coolant leak from here. Now, like I said, so right now I was looking at a Ford Excursion with like 130,000 miles in Colorado. I'm in Texas. I wasn't planning to go look at it, and I was about to pull the trigger on it, and I asked the guy for a walk around video, and he's just doing the, you know, the generic, you know, just kind of passing by, doing one of these numbers. And I just so happened to see, man, there was just a white streak dried up, and that's enough for me to go, nope, that truck most likely has a head issue causing excessive pressure, pushing coolant out of the cap. And then there was another one in California, just outside of Los Angeles, which again, it was actually already studded, relatively low miles. And again, he gives me a video walk around just kind of similar to what I just gave an example of. And I just noticed the most ever so slight white around the cap. And I messaged him and said, hey, I'm concerned that there is dry coolant around the reservoir. Can you send me a picture? And wouldn't you know it, he sends me a picture, and the entire engine bay is dirty. The rest of the reservoir tank is dirty. And the little streak where I saw white is now super, super clean. Like he took a rag and just wiped up that line and tried to make it as little obvious as possible so that I wouldn't know what he did. But again, actually, so a few things here. It can also be a faulty cap. So if your own personal Excursion, if you have a leak here, believe it or not, it can actually be a faulty cap, a cap that has failed. And a mechanic can explain this better than I, but I guess over time, some of these caps can actually wear out. But so if you're trying to make a decision though of buying one or not, if you see one that has white around this, I think you should either turn around, or you should continue to investigate further, or have a mechanic come out and do a legitimate test where they can check to see if there's certain things within the coolant composition. There's other things you can do, like you can squeeze this little tube here to see, you know, it shouldn't be rigid. It should have some give to it when the motor's hot. But anyway, nonetheless, hopefully that saves you potentially 10 or 15 grand. If you see white around the cap, to me, that is a telltale sign that it might have a high pressure situation, which means it might have a cracked head. And the 6 liter is a great motor. It's one of my favorite engines. In fact, I prefer it over the 7.3 if I'm just being honest. I like to drive them. But you've got to be concerned about the heads, and if you get one and you're looking at it and you see that, man, that's a pretty good sign that it could have an issue. And again, if you're really loving the truck, or maybe it's your own truck, go through a few other tests to make sure. But for me, like the one in Colorado, for me, it's just nope. I'm just not even going to worry about it. There's other Excursions out there. It's not worth the $10,000 risk, because that's how much it costs to fix it. If you get it here and it needs new heads, it's about 8 grand if it needs new heads. So to go in and do the process, I mean, it's at least 8 grand if they don't find more, and depends on the shop labor rate that you use. And then the one in California, now I just think the guy's shady because he was trying to hide something from me. So I would never do business with somebody who's shady. So anyway, there you go, guys. That's something that could really save you some time and some money. And like I mentioned, I have been bamboozled before. I went and I test drove a Ford Excursion. I even went and looked at it. And it was on a rainy day. I hadn't been burned yet by a 6.0, so I just didn't know. And man, it was raining, it was dark, it was late. And I go for a test drive. And what you can see, if they really have an issue, they'll be spitting coolant and it'll be running down right here. Well, I made the mistake of not opening up the hood after I drove it, but it was spewing coolant down here, but I couldn't tell because the whole thing was wet because of rain anyway. Well, I got it home, and the next day it was dry, and I started it, and sure enough, it was leaking coolant literally down the frame. I pop it up, coolant everywhere, and it was a $10,000 or $12,000 mistake. So Anywho, hopefully you find some value in that, guys. Like and subscribe to the channel. I'm going to be doing some more videos just like this. Man, I've learned a lot over the past 2.5 years about Ford Excursions, and it might be helpful to you. These are just some things that I look for when buying and selecting Excursions myself, because at the end of the day, I'm not trying to rebuild a motor if I don't have to. I'd rather avoid buying Excursions that need 10 or 15 grand worth of work. I'd rather buy a nice Excursion from the jump, do a few things to it if needed, and then get them out to you guys at a good price, and something that you know has been looked at and is mechanically sound. By the way, this is a really epic Ford Excursion. This is a V10. It's a cool rig, and this right here, 2001, is a really cool rig also. But anyway, like and subscribe. It's a blessing to me, guys. Like I said, only a 10-minute video here, so God bless you, and I will talk to you soon.